Hi everyone. So here's another application for the SUMIFs and the SUMIF and the COUNTIFs and the AVERAGEIFs, and it's a little bit different from what we had in the other examples. What I've done here is I've set up just a small list of transactions that we have here by date, and we've got the company that bought it, where they are, what they bought, how much they spent, and all that. And what I'm going to do here is, by utilizing a range, a date range that we plug into here, okay, which would be referencing that date range, all right, we're going to put together formulas that will look for only that data that falls in between whatever ranges we've got up here, and then, of course, goes and either adds up or counts or averages, that type of thing, and we'll put those items over here. All right, so one of the things that we're going to have to do in our formula here is we're going to have to kind of tweak it just a little bit. We're going to have to use the ampersand character in some areas, because we're kind of referencing a formatted date that's over in column H there on H2 and H3, and in order for the function to be able to accurately match up what's in column H with what we have in column A, we need these. Okay, so that's why I said it's a little bit different than what we've been doing. What I try to do is cover all bases when I teach these type of classes. I want to make sure that you have the full global, I guess, idea of how all the different ways that you can apply these different functions and so forth. So for this first one we're going to do here, this is going to be for the total dollars. So we're just going to assume it's based on all this range right here. Okay, so we're going to go to here, we'll type on our equal, we'll type in SUM, and we'll see our SUMIFs. All right, now we have to do the SUMIFs because we have two criteria: greater than this, in essence, and less than that. All right, so that's what we have to do there. Now, the first thing is we're going to go over to E2, all right, because we're doing SUMIFs. We're going to have to tell it the range that we want it to add up, based on whatever the criteria is. So we're going to go to here, Control, Shift, and then down arrow key. All right, we don't have too many here, so I could probably just drag it next time. So we do that, and then a comma, all right, and then now we're going to go over to column A. All right, so now our criteria here is going to be column A, so we'll start here, and I'll just do the Control Shift down arrow key. That's fine. And in this case, comma, that range we're looking for, and then we'll put in quotation marks, the range is going to be greater than or equal to, right? And then close that up, right, the quotations there. And then what we're going to do, and this is where it gets a little weird here, we're going to put that ampersand in, all right? And then we're going to click on to H2, right? Because that's where, bring that up a little bit, right here, that's going to be where we're starting from. Okay, so it has to be greater than that date, all right? And then we'll do a comma, and then we'll select that range again. So we'll go to here, right? Control Shift down arrow, all right? And then once we've done that, we'll do a comma, and then in quotation marks, it'll be less than or equal to, right? And then close that up. And now again, we're going to put that ampersand in there, and then reference H3. That'll be this one right here. Oh, this one right here. See, so we'll click onto that. And then once we've done that, we can just close off the parenthesis if you want. Enter that in, and there we go. So what we're saying here right now is the total amount of transaction, total amount of revenue that we've gotten, that we've received in sales between these two dates is a little over $9,000. Now what we want to do is we want to figure out how many transactions occurred between those two dates. All right, so we're going to use the COUNTIFs in this case, right? So we'll hit equal, COU, there's our COUNTIFs, so we'll double click that, all right? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at column A here. So we're going to start there. Control Shift down arrow key. All right. Comma. All right. And then what we'll do, okay, then we'll do our little quotation mark, and we'll say greater than or equal to, and then close that off. And then we'll put our wonderful ampersand in there, because we're kind of referencing this date. And that's going to be, again, clicking on the H2 here. And then we're going to put a comma in there, all right, after that H2. And then we're going to do that range again here. And I'll just drag it this time. So drag the range like that. And then we'll put a comma in there. And then in quotation marks, less than or equal to, all right. And I close that off, and then another ampersand, because we're going to be referencing another date here. And we'll click on to, in this case, H3. There we go. And we can close off the parenthesis, enter that in, and there we go. So we've got 17 transactions during that date range. All right, very good. Now, for the average, here we're going to be using the average ifs. So we'll do equal AV. There's our average ifs. We'll double click onto that. And then the range that we're looking here, is since we're using the ifs, it's going to want to know the totaling area first here, because we're looking for average sales. So we're going to take that range there. All right, we can just kind of select that. And then what we'll do is we'll do a comma. All right, and then we'll look back at A again. So A2 here. We'll select that range. And then we'll put a comma in there. And then our quotation marks, and this is going to be greater than or equal to. Close that off. And then our little ampersand, and then H2. Get back up there. There's our H2. All right, so that's the beginning there. Okay, now we'll do a comma. Go back to A here and select that same range. So now this time we want to go in that same range and find the ones that are less than that end date, right? So after we got that selected, put a comma, quotation mark, less than or equal to, just like that. And then once we've got that in place, then another wonderful ampersand. And then we can go ahead with H3, which will be this one right there. And that's it. We'll close that off, add that in, and that's perfect. Now for this very last one, what I want to do is figure out how much we did in sales or revenue, column E here, after the end date. So whatever this ends up being after that date, all right? So what we'll do is we'll just go to that cell, all right? We'll start out with our equal SUM, and this is just going to be one criteria, so we're just going to do the SUMIF, all right? And we're going to select from A2 all the way down, all right? And then we'll put a comma, all right? And then in quotation marks, we'll say greater than, or I guess we do greater than or equal to, right? And then close that off. And then we'll do our little ampersand. And then we'll say H3. So we'll find H3 here. There we go. We'll click onto that. Comma. And then, of course, what do we want to add up? Well, it'll be column E here. So we'll select that range all the way down. Close that off. Enter that in. And there we go. That looks good. So not a lot of work there, but now we've got this thing set up so we can say, okay, I can maybe go to this one right here and say I just want to see the first quarter. So I'll type in, let's say 3/31/2015. All right, enter that in, and there we go. So that is the first quarter of 2015 and the statistics on that. So again, just another application of these if and ifs related functions, but hopefully this will come in handy for maybe some of your worksheets, and I really appreciate you watching the video. Thanks a lot.